Know that enlightenment is possible for you. That's the most important thing. It actually is. I could be your example. If you feel like you're not the type of person who can do it, or you don't have the DNA for it, or it's for those reserved lucky few, you're wrong. You can do it. Enlightenment is what you are. So it's just a matter of peeling off the not you and looking at what you are closer, and with some good guidance here and there, following the breadcrumb. It doesn't have to even be long. Like this can just be a few deep dives, and you can remember what you are.
Cory Katuna, thank you so much for joining us on the show. You've got your YouTube channel there, Perspectives, which is great. Talks about spiritual awakening, enlightenment, personal growth. And I'm curious, how did this journey begin for you? Maybe to get things going, you could tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are right now.
Wow, okay, the full kit and caboodle, all of it, huh?
Let's do it. The story.
So let's see. Okay, so how did I get to where I am now? Why don't I start just telling you about myself? Um, so I work with Bentinho Massaro's team. For those of you who don't know Bentino Massaro, he's a self-realization teacher and empowerment teacher, but he's more and more kind of he's like withdrawing more and more from teaching. He just sort of had what felt to me almost like the climax of his teaching, which was we did the God tour in Europe for the last 5, 6 months. So big event tour, teaching people to know God directly, like to know God directly in themselves. And by God, we just mean source, uh, oneness, truth, reality, to know that directly instead of going through some sort of external dogma. And it was just some of the best teachings ever. So I was there on event tour with him, completely blew my mind, completely inspired me. I thought I had like learned everything I could learn from him. And yet being on that tour was like, oh, okay, wow, humbled again and like inspired again to another level. So we could talk about that if you want later on.
Yeah.
Um, Additionally, I co-own a company called The Light Touch with my friend Romee, and we do mentorships and coaching for women. So we do long form mentorship programs, like 6 month programs for women. And it's a little awkward to say this, but it's about friendship, but like for real, like real friendship where you can get through things together. You can have the full conversation, conflict resolution, clear communication, being able to bring all of yourself in, and like what kind of unity, what kind of true teamwork, camaraderie can result from actually sort of moving through everything together and being on the same page. And it's so cool. Like we have so many repeat mentees because it's like life changing, the
Mm.
stuff we do. So I'm proud of that and I love it. Um, and then this podcast is one of the things where it's like I feel like I used to do reels on Instagram. I still might do more, but every time I'm doing this, people are like, "What's the rest? Like, tell us the rest." That's just a 60-second thing. Like, what's the whole thing? Like, what else did that come from? What's the full worldview that sourced that little snippet? Because that's helpful, but like, let me in. And I've gotten that feedback over and over and over, not only with the reels, but with even some of my coaching. So that was the point. It's just like, let me come on in. Like here, let's look. I'll show you everything. I'll tell you everything. So it's really based on transparency, a lot like what you guys are doing, in fact, where it's just like, here's everything that I see. Here's every awakening that I've been through. Here's my favorite creatine supplement. Here's my everything, like here's everything that I
Yeah.
have to say that might be relevant. Um, so that's fun. I love it. I love doing it. What else?
I could
I
say
don't
something
know.
right away about what you just said. I find it
Go for it.
so like interesting that in this day and age, like we had a comment recently from some guy that goes, the fact that you guys can talk about this stuff with each other is so rare. Never forget. Remember that
Yeah,
comment? It was
yeah,
like, value that.
yeah,
And in real life, it's like pretty, every now and then you come across somebody who goes, I never have conversations like this. It's like the only people I can talk to like this. And it's fascinating to me that on the internet, there's this thirst for transparency, this thirst for like something that we had to develop the internet and the buffer of a screen between it for somebody to be like, give me the whole story. Give me your life story. Give me the whole package. Let me see right in there. You know what I mean? Like this thirst for authenticity and transparency and all this stuff. Why doesn't that translate oftentimes to real life relationships that often are more, utilitarian and sort of like sociopathic? Like we treat each other like tools or something like that, rather than like people
So
to
true.
connect with, you know? That's what came to
So
mind when
true.
you were saying that.
I love this. I was just seeing, I think I was listening to a Modern Wisdom episode, I think, and they were talking about it must have been like Socrates, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, those guys, and the way that they relished their friendships, and it's like their guy friends
Yeah.
were the most important thing in the world, like even more important than their wife in some cases, or
Loved
it's
each
like
other.
the yes,
Yeah.
yes, so much would write each other notes from like across the country or from war and be like, I miss you. Like, here, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Like, really just to be so open and so connected. And I think this whole social media trend and the whole internet trend, and especially with AI coming, I think it makes people just feel even worse. And it's like, okay, cool, wrong direction. Like, to be even more separate, to feel even more lonely. Like, I have friends that have great lives and they tell me how they feel lonely regularly.
Yeah.
Regularly feeling lonely is crazy. It's like, wow, okay, we're doing something wrong collectively, that people are so often feeling separate, like where to the point where antidepressants are super,
Yeah. Well, I think it's
you know,
amazing that you're doing this thing for women, this mentorship for women, because there's probably a lot of lonely women out there. Like women oftentimes get it right in a way where they'll stick together. They'll I mean, men do too sometimes, but I'm thinking of some statistic. I don't know if it's real or not about middle-aged men having a problem of going off and being sort of stoic and by themselves and then falling into like serious lonely despair. And it's like, but maybe there's some societal function to that. Like maybe they've been encouraged to be that way. There's something, it's not really that crazy to think that there's whole cultures around the West where the predominant theme is like guys don't share stuff. I don't even want to know, which is really just a kind of unacknowledged like, well, because you're way too competitive. You can't be vulnerable around each other. Like maybe these women that are struggling with the same competitive capitalist shit that we all are at least have some vulnerability left in them to be like, you know what? Let's not give in to this. Let's like get together like the old ways and start talking amongst each other and reinforcing togetherness. Men have been like
yeah,
that too, like you said, like these old guys that would literally write these gushy letters to each other. But we are taught the reason you probably don't see more of that is there's some kind of effect. Somebody gets something out of the idea of men being stoic and shutting up and going off and being alone and and just becoming more and more what is it, cold or whatever, not vulnerable.
for sure,
And I think
for sure.
competition plays a big role in all this. It's like we're overly we've sacrificed some kind of connective thing because of our capitalistic competitive drives. I think that plays a role here and why some people feel that way.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling it's like pendulum. It like this whole thing where everybody's um so siloed. I think it's penduluming back. So I am
Yeah.
optimistic for men and women. I mean, just the success of our programs is an indicator. And actually, next one we're opening it up to men too. So this is a first. We haven't done this before.
Oh,
Our next
wow.
mentorship program, we're nearly tripling the size because there's like a lot of demand, bringing on a few more facilitators. So it's not just me and my business partner running this one. We're bringing on a guy to co-host with us and a few more backup facilitators. So we'll do it. We'll open it for 80 people, men and women. We've already sold like 60 spots. So it's people want this. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good sign, to feel that demand
Yeah.
for just being all the way seen and growing together. Like not just growing, but growing together.
Yeah. What do you notice in the
Yeah.
beginning when people are kind of maybe transitioning back from more isolation? What is like the biggest blockade you're finding with people?
Yeah, yeah, we do a whole unit on this. It's called cop out strategies. This is like one of the first chapters we do where we have everybody reveal their cop out strategy. And some people don't see it at first, but basically, we all have a good reason why not transparency. We all have a really good reason, a good story, a good whatever, some good narrative that we have in our head that it's like, well, because it's not safe, or because they won't get me, or because I never do that. That's for the fools who do that kind of thing, or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
have a good reason, a good justification for why you're not transparent and open, and just real about what you want to get out of a program like this. And some people will just have their weird cop out strategies. But when we have everybody air that up front and people just like, it's like, okay, this is the game. This is the challenge. Everybody just expose your reason why not. Expose why you're too cool or nobody likes you. Nobody's going to get you or what is it? Whatever. Who cares? Nobody cares. We've seen them all.
Yeah.
And people have fun with this. People have fun with being like, all right,
It's
if
so
I'm
funny.
real, like,
I'm picturing like Fight Club, like a bunch of women in a basement. Like, if this is your first night, you have to tell the truth. You know what I mean? And I honestly, I'd be maybe cringily, I've imagined like, well, what would like a group I'd want to be part of be like? And how do you do it? How do you suss out what's real? Somebody, it's like, okay, if this is your first night here, you got to say something that's gonna make us not like you. It better be if the reality of it is that if you can't produce a story that's so shameful that the room gets silent, then are we really getting honest here? You know? You know what I mean? Like something
funny.
hardcore. I haven't done that. I doubt anybody would sign up for that. But how do you get to it?
I,
How do you get to the real layer? Because that's intense. If somebody's like, let's get what's your cop out strategy or let's get transparent here. There's still so many safety measures. It's like you could say something that's still a pretentious story. You know what I mean? That's like supposed to be a reflection of your deep shame, but it's like, what a bitch. That story's secretly a brag.
No, yeah, but I think one of the things is that Romee and I, that's my business partner, we have done this so much ourselves. Our friendship is already like this. We're both so transparent in these mentorships. We're both just like, here's the truth of literally what I'm going through right
Yeah.
now. Welcome. You think that I'm coming with some like prepared spiel and some curriculum that I've done a million times. No, I'm here with you right now. Look,
Yeah.
like go ahead and look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sets the stage. Also, the fact that Romee and I are just so used to working with people, we've coached so many people. It's like anything like that where it's like this tactic, we'd be like, okay,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
not,
it's got a different vibe
let's
and
look at that
flavor. Yeah, yeah, for
for
sure.
sure.
You can't fake
Yeah,
certain
and
things.
we don't do like trauma work also. So we're not like, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you? What's the like, what
Hmm.
is the thing that we don't go into that. We assume that people have done some degree and are, mentally stable
Yeah,
and it's fine if something comes up, but it's not like we're therapists that are let's get into the all the weeds and the nitty gritty and show us everything. We don't care about that. It's just like what's in the way of transparency? What's
yeah,
your excuse? Is it that something's wrong with you? Is it that there's something wrong with us? Is it that nobody's going to get you? It's like the same 10 things usually.
yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
the why not transparency? And
yeah.
if you're here, that means you want it. So we're already on the same team about this.
Hmm.
Now it's us against your reason. It's
Yeah,
not you and your reason against us. And people are grateful for this. People are like, fuck, finally. Like finally I'm cornered
yeah,
enough to have
yeah,
to be like, okay, here's my thing that I've been trying to get rid of, but
yeah.
nobody's cornered me sufficiently to get rid of it.
Yeah, wonderful. You've alluded to a couple of things in your past that kind of like led you to this place. You mentioned in a lot of your videos about kind of like your woke phase or something like that. What is it about some of those things that kind of like brought you to where you are now?
I like that question. I could say there's like the positive and negative influences of a phase like being woke and just being like just thinking that like my like limited ideas about specifically what sort of policy changes needed to happen in order to save the world environmentally from the patriarchy uh from the white supremacists whatever my ideas were at the time. So on one hand, to see that it just wasn't working. So I used to work with this nonprofit and we would host trainings for youth activists. So it was like high schoolers that wanted to become activists, but like, leading nonprofit. They're nothing crazy. And we host these trainings so that they would sort of get their language and they would, feel empowered to be better activists. And we taught them about those things. We taught them about white supremacy and the patriarchy, and basically we taught them that we gave them more sophisticated language to be convinced that they are victims. Or if they're not victims, that there's a lot of victims, and there's the bad guys who are to blame and the good guys who are to protect. And it's black and white like that. And what happened over the course of these trainings, first the kids would like show up and they'd be excited to know each other. And by the end, it was like segmented by race. Literally, it was like, here are the
Oof.
white kids that are kind of the, they're feeling guilty because they're white. And then there's the black kids that are like, it was just like, hold on, this is wrong. We
Mhm.
didn't, we're trying to do the opposite of this. We're trying to like
Mhm.
uh, save oppressive systems from, taking over humanity, and look at what we're doing. So I felt like this was like black, like I couldn't stand this. So that's when I quit that nonprofit. But I don't think it's as clear to everybody. Like I think there's just more variables, and I don't think it was as clear to everybody else. Like that's why I think this whole woke thing is kind of trending still. Slightly less. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like I think we're penduluming back.
Well, to me, it sounds like
But
your compassion is probably amplified. You've learned something through going through that experience. And some people think that, like, like I think there is kind of like a woke phase that everyone kind of goes through where, they see some of the things that you were talking about there and kind of like the injustices around the world. But maybe how we address it is something that we can need to continue to evolve in, you know, maybe not
love that.
becoming like, painting everyone as a victim may not be the best way to resolve this situation. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're doing. But obviously, with what you're doing here, spirituality, awakening seems to be an aspect of some of your teachings. Where does the spirituality aspect fit into your not only your podcast, but the In Touch thing that you're doing? How does that how does that all get in there?
Okay, spirituality. So there is kind of two ways I think about spirituality. One is self-realization. So like, what is I? What is the thing that knows? What is me really? Not me, Cory, body, mind. What is me really? Like you take off everything that's not me, anything that changes, and what's the one thing that doesn't change?
Mm,
And this, if you can like make eye contact with that and hold still, it like opens up into perfect presence. It's
mm,
like you become lucid. That's an awakening. So that up levels everything in your life. So this is it's like waking up from a dream. So there's nothing that doesn't touch. But another aspect of spirituality that I would consider spirituality is why I named my podcast Perspective, because there are levels or perspectives, frameworks, you could say, attitudes, outlooks, and from each one, you see a different world. So, and we all know this from our own experience. Like when you're moody and depressed and you're just like, I suck. I will never succeed at anything. I'm the worst. I don't want anybody to have my phone number anymore. It's like just, you can't project positive outcomes for your life. You can't even remember good outcomes from your past. You just feel like the worst. And then from like two moods later, you just like get up.
yeah.
You're like, wait, I'm terrific. I'm great. I was deluded. Things are possible. I love people. I can't wait to be around people. I've got ideas for hosting. I'm confident about the trajectory of my career. Like that's crazy. It's like borderline psychotic that we all have this. It's like a whole different perspectives, and from each perspective, there's a different outlook. Victimhood is one such perspective, and it's like the most insidious, it's the most viral, it's the most like catching, it's like the thing we want to like respond to on our phones or like share, or it just compels us. Like victimhood, how I could be being victimized right now. Ooh, he's a toxic abuser. Ooh, the like narcissist over there. Oh, my neighbor is whatever. It's like we just like are manipulable
And
by the
some
victim
perspectives
framework.
are so all consuming, right? Sorry, I shouldn't
Yes.
interrupted you.
No, please.
I thought you were gonna there was gonna be a pause and I could jump in. But sorry. But some
Don't be
perspective
tired.
some perspectives they're all consuming, right? Like it's and we honor somebody that's kind of like bolted a mask to their face like, well, I don't care how I'm feeling. I'm the same way no matter what. But that gets awful hard to uphold later on because it's so inauthentic. It gets very painful to have that. And it's ugly when
Yes.
a person claws that mask off. But for a lot of us, the reality is we are shifting from perspective. But the strange thing about that is we can't we it seems like we kind of can't admit how schizophrenic, maybe that's the wrong word, or how psychotic that really is. Because depending on your perspective, you'll like forget your role. You'll forget like your role in things, and you might be playing the victim, and it's like, hey man, I've seen you be a perpetrator. I've seen you be a jerk. You don't have any compassion, like you know what I mean? Because you're all consumed by it in a moment, and you've compartmentalized yourself. Um,
Yes.
and then I'm kind of selfishly, I wanted to say something after you mentioned the result of that, like very like with good intention communicating, well, where have people actually been victimized? And let's settle this. And then the way it segregated people, and then the black kids are hanging out together and the white kids are off feeling guilty or whatever the heck it is. And I think about our tendency to try to solve things, our tendency as humans to try to solve every problem and get things just right. And how clouded and how like just murky that permanently is. You know, there's when you say, sorry, I'm throwing this non-linearly out there. I'm just throwing all kinds of things out there. But there's a real power in that moment if you can get it, where you can kind of be in being, not completely engulfed in some like perspective for a moment.
Exactly.
And what that reveals to you. But then we pick it back up and we start trying to solve things again and plug holes in the ship. But so many things just aren't as they seem, you know, like there's been so many people that would say that would maybe preach segregation. They would be like the first person at the front of the parade preaching we should be segregating, and then you find out they've got like three ethnic wives when no one's looking. You know what I mean? Like that's happened so many times. Things just aren't as they seem. I think if
Yeah.
people were started to value honesty and transparency. It's not the whole thing. Like it's not the whole thing, but it's a big part. If people started to just recognize what was good about being together, and the pendulum swung a little bit for a bit, and we saw the value in transparency and vulnerability, a lot of things would kind of course correct on their own. Like people would be like, of course, like, you know what I mean? We're humanity. We're all one race. A lot of the stuff we want turns out to be the same thing, and really only trying to control things and sanitize everything, or make it a way because we've got deluded for a moment and thought things were some way. That caused all kinds of problem and pain and suffering. If we just got that out of the way, maybe a lot of these issues would become non-issues. It sounds super woo. It's probably not going to be
It
very
doesn't.
appealing to like some kind of person that's like lost in like studying how things have played out historically. But I think going forward, it could play a huge role. You know, you must see it firsthand
I
when
love
you're
it.
getting in touch with people's more authentic, honest side.
Yeah. Well, okay. One thing you said about like let's acknowledge the people who are really victims for sure, but there's a whole difference, a major difference between being a victim, like fact, something happened to me, someone punched me in the face, I was victimized by that, and the state of victimhood, the perspective of victimhood, the like um the helpless, um hopeless, I have no control. I have no responsibility. Everything happens to me. I'm a passive recipient of my entire life. I have no options. That attitude is an attitude. It's a frame of mind. It's a perspective. It's like
Hmm.
a station on the radio. You can choose
Yeah.
that. And this is the big breakthrough is for people to realize what all every mood I'm in, every state I'm in, every perspective I'm in, whatever word you like there, whatever every radio station, I chose that.
Yeah.
I chose that. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially for somebody who's really convinced they feel like a victim, or really convinced that everybody else is to blame, or really convinced that like nobody cares about me, or whatever their sort of outlook is. But just to be like, yo, you're doing that. You did that. You can do this.
Yeah.
And you'll notice because when you are in some spontaneous good mood, all those problems aren't there. So your mood, this thing that keeps changing, you're actually the creator of that. And this is where self-realization comes in handy, and is actually just crucial because what self-realization gives you access to is like, okay, I'm none of that. What am I? I'm none of that. I'm not a single mood. I'm not my best mood. I'm not my worst mood. I'm none of that. I'm over here. I'm the chooser. I'm the one that's aware. I'm the creator. And this, like, if I'm gonna look at one thing that could save humanity, or go back to my original intention for being woke and for being an activist, which was to serve humanity and to take care of people and to better the planet, this is what I would have people get is responsibility. And there's
It's
nothing
so,
cool about
it's
responsibility.
in the elevator of perspectives. I love the idea of like stopping at a floor and being like, oh, you haven't arrived at the floor yet where you realize what you're choosing. You know what I mean? Like there's like a floor there
Yes.
where you become aware of that and the person's like, oh, but then you go a little further and it's like, wait a sec, why did the chooser choose that? What's
Yes.
comprising this chooser that we're even talking
What
about?
am I getting out of that? What am I getting out of that?
Yeah,
Why am I
yeah.
doing this on purpose?
Yeah.
Right. And then all the way to like, the deepest thing. It's just interesting. We come back together and then we we try to talk in some cohesive way with the backdrop of this great mystery, that for those that have had it, and for some of us it is a glimpse. We can't stay in it, We're not here time after time sitting on a cushion like permanently radiating love. But we know we've silenced that ego good enough to be like, oh, like this is I was so skeptical of this wordless piece or whatever until I got a glimpse of it myself. That's where it gets
Yeah, I love that.
that's where it gets tricky though, right? It's one thing to be a guru that's claiming I've got it, and they're the same every time. A different space to be in is I've seen it, but I'm coming at this world. I'm with you. I'm trying to problem solve, and I'm still fascinated with systems and how all this works. And
Oh my God, I love what you just said about like that just like a single glimpse, like a single like perforation in the veil where you're like, oh, fuck, oh my God. Okay, back it down here. But I remember, I will never forget.
right.
I will never forget that. That will forever infuse my consciousness. That will forever give me confidence that like all of this, yes, it's significant, and yes, it matters, and I can influence people from here, and I can sort of pour the best of myself into the world to awaken others, but I'll never all the way be able to fall for this again because
Mm,
there's been a
Yeah.
little glimpse of like
yeah.
what's really
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
what's really real.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. We were talking just before the podcast about kind of like the speed in which people integrate the stuff that you're talking about. And then like maybe you could talk about like the people that are coming into your program and the different paces that people are working at, because it seems like some people there's like the chosen few, it seems like sometimes it seem to get this stuff really quick. And then for the most of us, it's like small steps that are constantly being worked on. Uh, Maybe you could talk about even what you do to maybe even help accelerate that.
Oh, I love that question too. Um, I think I'm one of the small steps people. Like I'm the tortoise
Yeah.
that gets there in the
I
end.
feel I'm with you. I
Um,
feel the same way.
yeah. Like when I first started seeking probably 15 years ago, before I met Bentino, or before I had a clue about what enlightenment was. Like that's like for the yogis and the monks. Like that's probably not my track. I just want to reach my potential. Um, where was I going with this? Oh, that I'm a turtle, that I'm a slow learner. It took me like I'm a good learner. Like once I'm interested in something, I like bite onto it and I'm gonna get everything I can get out of that. But it's slow and steady. Like I don't go for the I don't know. It's I don't go for the like I've seen these people, these lightning people who are just like go from nothing to huge awakening, and then they're sort of reconciling with that for the next 5 years.
Mm.
Or just like, wait, what even is that? How do I integrate? How do I, I've seen it, I've seen this. And so I'm grateful for whatever it is about my system that is just like exactly when you're ready, and I'm confident in that too. Like I'm
Oh,
confident that we're all built for this.
Yeah.
We're
thank you for
all gonna get
saying
there.
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
grateful for what I am actually.
Yeah,
Just not, you don't say chosen few. Eckhart Tolle lived on a bench for 3 years after he had his thing.
exactly.
You don't necessarily want it that way. But at the same time, it's funny. In my 20s, I was
I was like, I gotta get my life together. And so I'm consuming self-help, and then there's affirmations in there, I love public speaking. I love public speaking. I love public speaking. And then the next thing you know, I'm in front of people public speaking. And then and then you start looking into spirituality and the ego and all this stuff, and that this is a cause of great suffering for you. And then, you're trying to let go of things and you realize like I was one of an ocean of morons doing self-affirmations, building up something that ultimately ends up being a big diluted mess that was just as fictional as whatever came before it and whatever new identity is crafted after it. I
So
love that
cool.
there's a bunch of us kind of realizing just the going, starting to look even beyond all that and starting to look at what's more primary, what's even more primary to that. And of course, yeah, there's all kinds of people. There's people that seem to have gotten something early on, but at the end of the day, there's no identity, there's no ego that's really all that real anyway. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
all what's that one term I kind of like, which is like everybody's walking each other home or something like
Oh,
that. It's
yeah.
irrelevant. It's irrelevant where we're
Well,
at.
what I like about it, what I like about the ego world or the world of sort of personal development and self-help is I think of it as like building muscles. So you're not really doing the workout yet. Like you're not doing the Olympics, but you are building your muscles. Like you're building muscles like focus,
Hmm.
concentration, discipline, uh whatever, opening up to higher potentials besides the limits of your own mind, or whatever conditioning you have. I like the muscles that are built. I had the same sort of start as you, which was just very self-help, very reach my potential, very like optimize my mind and like biohack and figure
Yeah.
out the how to be the best version of
Yeah.
myself. Then at some point it's just like, okay, wait, the whole thing, wait, this whole thing,
Yeah.
hold on. It's like you,
Yeah.
and I think that's like the exciting. I love that I had the years of stabilization and like just becoming stable, becoming just becoming confident, being happy, being like I could succeed in the world if I needed to. I could, I've got all the tools I need. I could do a
Feels
good job
good.
here. I'm not some like random like scattered butterfly spiritual person. I'm like I'm solid. I'm
Yeah.
good. And now to start having awakenings from that foundation is just it's just like, oh hell
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ready for this. Like
Yes.
I can work with this immediately.
Good point. Good point. Because I immediately started thinking about Alan Watts, who obviously had a bunch of spiritual wisdom, but by so many accounts was like a severe alcoholic. You know what I
Oh
mean?
fuck.
Nearing the end of his life, they were like, he's drinking a quart of gin or whatever every day. Like, that's kind of where what you're talking about to me stands out. It's like it's just general like good living. You know what I mean? Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Why not live well? You can,
And it gets better after awakenings. That's the other cool thing. It's like after you become free from this. So say I'm like invested in this, and then I come out and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. For whatever reason, I don't even get the mechanics of this. This gets better. It's like the final optimization you didn't know you needed. You become more generous. Timing gets better, more confident. I used to be afraid of public speaking, had some awakenings, can't be bothered with any public speaking fear anymore. Really, it doesn't touch me anymore.
mm.
I didn't do that. I didn't like practice. I mean, I teach, but I didn't like
Hmm.
make a goal out of it. And there's a lot of things like that that happen. My physical fitness has like upgraded post
Oh,
awakenings.
okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I've had similar things happen. It's like because when you're not sort of locked into some dreamlike hypnotic state, you kind of have access to outside the box thinking. And it totally could affect
Exactly.
even how you exercise. You're like, wait a sec, I don't care if every bodybuilding magazine in the world says that I got to do this. Well, let me look at the reality of all these
Well,
bodybuilders. This guy got injured. This guy. Why did I give way to something where it's because I didn't have access to more dimensions. You know what I mean? I didn't have access to like maybe there's an
yes.
intuitive way to deal with this.
Well, okay. And think about like, have you ever put in your 2 weeks at work? And then suddenly those 2 weeks, you're just like crushing it, saying hi to everybody. You're just like, you're back, you're just like,
Oh
I love
God.
this job. Why am I even quitting? Because you're free, because
Yeah.
you're not bound anymore. You're
Yeah.
not falling for the limitations of of the contract, I guess. And it's similar with life. Like if I believe that I can't get out of this, that I'm stuck here, that I just have to like make do, and the best thing I can do is just have a good relationship and get a good job, and
Yeah.
maybe have some good time. Or am I free from this? And like I'm actually the creator. I'm actually free from this. This is my own playground. It's a whole different game.
That's the
Now,
freedom of,
you're
that's the gift
yeah,
of hard times, in my opinion. That's the gift of when things aren't so good. Because that
nice.
same job, if your mom's calling you every day saying, "Honey, I'm so proud of you," or you're getting a lot of positive reinforcement, that becomes like a hell. You're like, I'm dying on the inside, but I'm getting so much positive reinforcement, I can't give it up. That's where the
Wow,
gift
yeah.
of when you've failed or when you're humiliated or whatever, you're like, this is easy to drop. This is easy to like,
So true.
you know, but some people they do that day to day. They might be participating or in some world where they feel obligated to something, and their little private Idaho or whatever the term is that they tell themselves, I'm choosing to do this. That helps them get through one more day. This is ultimately a choice I'm choosing. Okay, I'll do it then. And take that to the nth degree, and that's sometimes how people cope. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Or they get caught in a world that's, extremely mundane, but just not enough suffering for them to make a difference.
yeah,
That
Oh
seems
my
to
God.
be,
that's
and
probably the most common one.
yeah, and sometimes I get the impression that that's like almost what the world is doing on purpose. It's like just trying to sustain enough people to just try and keep things as they are right now. But yeah, maybe we can springboard off of this into getting into like the world as it is. I don't know, from your perspective as a whole, off of what I just said there and spiritual awakening. Like to me, it really seems like the world is making a conscious transition here. Like they can see that there is a longing for the authenticity thing that you're talking about, and they're tired of old systems, and yet it's somehow still like it's hanging around here. Maybe like what can we do to shift out of this? What can we do to become
Hmm.
more authentic? What can we do to change the systems of the world that seem to be keeping everyone in a state of just going along with it because I guess that's the way it always was. And I guess I'm not dying, I am suffering, but not enough to really do anything.
Mm,
Oh my God. So true. What that made me think of was how good is the greatest enemy of great. Like when things are good,
Mm.
why would you ever risk that for great?
mm, mhm.
Mm.
So, but anyway, you asked about the state of the world and how we can help people with this. Actually, what comes to mind, I don't know if you guys have heard of the book, The Fourth Turning.
I've heard of that
Um,
book, yes.
it's interesting. I don't know how like perfectly it maps to reality. But according to this book, there's every 20, 25 years is a season. There are four seasons, four turnings. And they trace this back hundreds of years. There's like consistency
Oh,
in the
wow.
four turnings. Right now we're in the crisis, which is for the next 10, 15 years, or maybe 10 years, we're in the crisis.
Oh,
And
come
after the
on.
crisis,
More years?
and the crisis, according to them, the crisis is sort of defined. And this is not going to be a perfect portrait of this book, okay?
Yeah.
But the crisis is defined by low institutional trust, um, low tradition, like people are not into tradition, or it's sort of like the most anarchy, like the most separate, the most lonely, the most sort of everybody sort of for themselves, not trusting the institutions. What else? Anyway, and then the at the turning, at the fourth turning, the next one, I forget what it's called, the fourth turning, but it's not the crisis, it's like the one where we're building again and we're cooperating again. And there's like a high appreciation for spirituality. a high appreciation for institutional, like the institutions have regained our trust and we can
Mm.
work together. Like it's like we got to our wits end of separation and now we're like, doesn't work. Usually it's because there's a war or multiple wars or some sort of crazy stuff with whatever. With this
Hmm.
case, I think it's going to be technology. And then we're like, hold on, let's actually come together. Let's cooperate. Let's value cooperation. And there's so many other things that they notice, like trends that happen every 100 years, where, for instance, right now in the crisis, people are dressing the most provocatively. And then after this turning, people will be dressing the most conservatively. That's their projection. That's like traditional values return. So I think it's interesting. I think on one hand, there's like this perfect conversion of like AI and tech reaching this zenith point where there's going to be no turning back, for better for worse. Um, Plus whatever is going on sociologically or anthropologically with humanity and these trends. Plus, I think this is where I'm optimistic, a rise in grounded spirituality that can meet that need. So that's sort of what I'm hoping for and optimistic about is that people like us, um, just good all around teachers that understand self-realization, that understand the truth of reality, but that also are like, on the ground, are going to rise just at the right time to meet that need. And people will actually be receptive to the idea of taking total responsibility and being the creator and choosing their level of energy or their perspective and admitting their cop out strategy and whatever it is. But I'm talking about really practical spirituality. I'm not even saying epic multi-dimensional kundalini experiences. I'm not even talking about that necessarily, but more so just the simple spirituality of taking total responsibility for your life as the creator of your life and knowing that that person is me, that we are one. Ultimately, we are one. There is no separation. Realizations like that people
Yeah.
realize on their drug trips and in their peak like experiences of meditation, but that are sort of fundamental truths of reality at a certain point. So if people are receptive and then the teachings are there, like if the supply and the demand meet at the right time, I'm optimistic about this next
We're
15 years.
seems like we're two steps forward, stumble back, stumble forward through history, kingdoms rise and fall, and there's patterns to be recognized in all this. And I wonder if kind of the age that we're living in, we're starting to become aware of our shadow, like our collective shadowy type stuff. I honestly feel like politics reflect that a lot. People love to get together and
Hmm.
complain and yap and argue and fight about politics, but it's like come on, man, there's no politician without a whole sea of people contributing to that one individual. Like it's reflecting our men and women. Our
That's
shadowy
cool.
stuff comes forward in that. And because there's this idea sometimes I think about falling out of touch. You know what I mean? Like as you were talking, for some reason I was thinking about the idea of somebody being resentful of somebody that seems out of touch. Like, oh, it's all well and good if you've established yourself in a gated community and then you can sit around and talk about peace and getting along, but you don't come from where I come from. And people do this sometimes to people with money. They'll be like, they can't wait for some success to come back to his hometown and put him in his place. You think you're a big shot. And I think that can happen in a spiritual community. It can happen all different things. But there's a collective responsibility. I'm starting to think that maybe the people that really get it, that they seem to have had a shift spiritually and it's sustained and they're staying there as they understand something maybe about the collective responsibility there. Like just like you're saying, you're pointing out to people what control they really have and the decision to be a victim and all this stuff. And I think that we can point a lot of this to like some kind of collective responsibility. And maybe it is like a four-step stage. And in the fourth movement, these things are. But look at over history. We detect these patterns, but we've progressed. We've progressed technologically. We've progressed in some way, but it often seems like kingdoms rise and they fall, and this happens, and then people and we drag all the information we have with us through time, and people even seem to be changing in some way. And I guess to wrap it up, what I'll just say is I think we can both claim responsibility
and understand the collective responsibility we have when we look around and we go, easy enough for you, or you need to address these issues that it's more technical than that. It's not this nebulous thing you're saying. It's more technical. You just fix this and you fix that. It's a deferring of the collective responsibility that you're not as aware as you think you are. You've fallen into a
Ah,
myopic
I agree.
thing.
Totally. Totally. To me, this just sounds like all that says is those are people who are stuck in these low perspectives.
Yeah.
That's like finger pointing, right, wrong. We need to like debate in order to reach the solution. Since when? Like, since when do you get the best solutions through like heavy argument and debate
Never,
and
never,
undermining
ever,
each
not
other?
even ever.
Never.
Sometimes you
When
get
did that
a
work?
solution, sometimes you get a result, which is
With
probably
and
ugly.
created new problems in your wake. You created new enemies in your
Yeah.
wake. Like how is that a real? That's not like a high level. That's not high level thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I mean about like this relative spirituality. It's just like improve your outlook, your whole outlook, your ability to harmonize, your ability to leave the whole wake better than what's in front of you. Like the whole wake, not just new karmic threads and new people who are upset and new, not new problems, not solving a problem and creating new problems in your wake, but like actually high level wise thinking, balance, deep compassion, care. You were talking about this at the beginning, but like problems that actually solve the thing, actually solving problems instead of you know having this identity of like, let's fix everything. I'm the type of person that's just out here to fix. Let me help. How can I help? Let me do some philanthropy. Let me do, no, no, no. Actually, the little lever that can change something. Like having the humility to be patient and to really look for that. And maybe it's totally internal. And maybe you lead by example. And maybe that's how you do
Maybe
it. And it's
maybe you
not by,
came from maybe a person came from like a toxically like I'm going to specify that they came from like a toxically traditional family. Maybe one of the family members goes out and marries somebody of a different race than theirs or something like that. And then just because they were honest with themselves, you know what I mean? They were like, I'm part of evolution. I crave diversity. You know what I mean? And then that's enough of a thing. It causes havoc, but it's an example. Like, I guess in a nutshell, what I'm saying is maybe a big part of it is just the example that you lead by what you're actually doing. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
not always clear. You can't expect people to confess to you that the effect you've had on them. That's not even fair to expect. But in the long run, that's what we are all doing already. You know what I mean? We are already making movements forward and learning together as humanity. That's like what we already are doing.
Yeah.
We already are called developing science and stuff like that from that place. And we step forward and we make mistakes and sometimes it's cataclysmic and we do our best for it not to be a world ender. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, I think that you can get a lot of that. You can realize a lot of those things by getting out of the hypnotic like identity world. You know, I'm gonna build up a good this identity feels good. You know, it feels good for now, but try it out and see where it leads. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Try it out, and then when it gets old, it might be time to just see through it, see what even constructed that identity to begin with. You know, the reality of
exactly.
how that happened.
Yeah. The fourth
Yeah.
turning conversation kind of made me think about a reaction we did recently. It wasn't even a reaction. We were just talking about utopian societies. And the first thing that was suggested on there would be that humanity would transcend its survival needs more for a collective sustainability. Do you think that is possible?
Okay, I feel like I have a feeling about the way people talk about utopia, where it usually gives me like, uh-oh, communism vibes. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
like set that aside.
Ah,
Um,
that's
but
understandable. Yeah.
yeah, usually I think that's that like paradox of compassion, where it's like, well, let's do the best thing for everybody, and it ends up being the worst thing for everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but it comes from a good intention. So okay, but moving on, you asked about if it's possible to have yeah, I mean, I can only say that I see it on a small scale. So on the team that I'm part of with the people that I work with, we have I mean, we're a team, we're like a company, so it's not like a society, but it's the most, it's the most like effective prototype I've ever seen for that sort of thing, where the concern is not on my own individual needs. The concern is on the thriving of the mission, you could say, like the whole mission, the mission of awakening, the mission of everybody's enlightenment. Like I could say my short-term mission at least is an enlightened team. That like I make sure everybody gets there, even if it's before me. Um, and I can feel that sort of care from everybody else who's on my team. That sort of like I'm making sure you succeed. Like your win is my win. Your win is my win. Your success is my success. That sort of that collective um, best case scenario for the collective is what I take personally attitude. And it's so rare. It is so freaking rare. It's common in families. Like it's common that parents feel that toward their kids, especially when their kids are young. It's a little tougher when kids get older and there's, that competition thing gets activated.
Mm.
But especially when kids are young, that's there where it's like I want the best for you. You have a scratch, I take that personally. Whatever you need, I devote myself to that. But to see it with a bigger group of people, 20, 30, 40 people is rare. Like you don't see that in any of the best
Yeah.
companies. You don't, that's like so because of that, I'm optimistic. But if you ask about like all of society,
You know what's funny? Like with what you're saying, like a true display of people that are starting to cultivate like a unified perspective. Like your win is my win. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm not struggling honestly with feelings of jealousy or resentment or something like that.
yeah,
We all love each other too much for that to go on. We would, if we saw somebody struggling, we would try to help them out and bring them so everybody's feels complete or whatever, or just an effort towards that. It's so different than how things usually are in like a corporate sense. But I'm saying the
hmm
funny thing is back in the 90s, there were so many depictions of the fear of collectivization, you know what I mean? And there's some real scary examples like how communism's played out and stuff like that. But even fictionally, like in Star Trek, you got the Borg,
Yeah,
ooh,
aliens are always like this
creepazoids.
collective menace coming.
They all think the same way. Creepy, creepy. It's not creepy
oh,
for me to go over and murder someone, a stranger, in the name of war, but it's creepy that these people are, they all think the exact same way. And that's for real reasons. It's just funny that there's a trepidation about that we have that plays out in
oh,
our
but the opposite is
fantasies.
true. The opposite is true.
Yeah.
It's like the more you become what you really are, and I'm not even talking about total self-realization. I'm just talking about like what are you? What are you? What are you when you're not faking? What are you when you're not pretending? What are you when you feel totally safe, totally aligned, totally yourself, like you at your best?
Hmm.
When you do that and you do that and I do that and you do that, it's like maximum diversity. Humor is like everybody's like funny and like politically incorrect funny. It's like everybody's like uniqueness fully blossoms. But because of that prioritization or recognition of unity, it's weird. It's like more diversity and more unity are synonymous, or like that's the same thing. It doesn't contradict, it doesn't compete. So the more our team has gotten unified, like unified in terms of like unified in terms of knowing what I am and knowing that we are all that, has given me confidence and permission to be completely what I am, like
Hmm.
unapologetically what I am. And it's very different. Nobody's becoming more like me, I'll tell you that much. I am not becoming more like anybody else. It's more distinct. And it's sort of like because of that, we can cover more ground, more unique skill sets are like popping up in people that I wouldn't expect. So yes, I feel you. Like that is, I think that's almost like that cult idea that like makes people like fear unity and like
Well,
I
it's
don't
there's
know,
just
like
so
what
much to it. You'd have to know every fine detail. I think about even some famous cults that didn't work out or something, right? And it's like, well, have you considered the fact that it emerged couched within a culture that's like completely antithetical to it? That's what it was up against. That thing that was just, well, look, it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. You know?
interesting.
There's actual versions of that, like false. false communism where it's like it really was fascism and everybody understands that now. And then there's the versions of it where it was actually something beautiful for a moment there. These people let go of all their inhibitions and they actually did therapy and worked out their demons and they got to a place of genuine, like serious, unbounded love with each other, but it didn't work out. Well, it was also couched within the kingdom of hell, the kingdom of like, government like that, not under my watch. Anything that exists without my
Right.
consent is evil. You know what I mean?
So true.
And
So
so,
true.
and it's fun to sit and think about these things forever and ever, but I gotta watch myself. So many times I get into that hyper technical mentality and want to know the reality of all these systems and how they all work. But you know, I leave that for somebody else. I got to know when to stop and to be like, that's okay. If I'm thinking it, somebody else is thinking it. Somebody's on it.
We'll
Hmm.
transition spiritual practices. Do you yourself, do you have any spiritual practices that you do? What do you like to do? What do you got that is working for you right now?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm so normal. I
My
binge
spiritual practice
YouTube
is watching
videos.
TV.
Very close. I binge YouTube videos. That's what I do. I just like find a teacher that I like, and when it's clicking, I go ham. Like it's like 12-hour
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
just want to learn it. I want to like get it. I want to absorb it. I want to like see through their eyes, not just understand conceptually what they're saying, but like let me see it. Let me become it. Let me take every bit of this that resonates. Who cares about what doesn't? And then, so like recently it was Rupert Spira. For whatever reason, I was late to the game.
He's a
I was
good
like
one.
late to the Rupert Spira game. He's great. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like simple and classic, but he's poetic the way he delivers.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like opens up a new thing for me. It's like, fuck, oh, totally, exactly. Like it inspires me in a new way. But I've done it with everything. With my teacher Bentino, he's my friend and teammate. He was my teacher first, and I don't know how he does it, but he manages to just like stay at the cutting edge. So I don't know if you guys saw any of his stuff from the tour. A lot of it was free on YouTube. The whole tour, almost all of the tour, were free talks, and they're still on YouTube. But it's like, how on earth do you manage to stay at the cutting edge still? So I'll still, um, and anytime there's a new Bentino video out, I that's the first one I'm gonna watch. Um, but like I mean I went back to like Abraham Hicks. I don't really consume Abraham Hicks anymore, but I had years of that. So
Hmm.
it's anything. I binge videos, and then my other ongoing all the time practice is moments of self-realization. Just moments. Like I'm not sitting for an hour, but I'll just do moments a lot. I do it a lot every time I think of it.
Yeah.
For sure before bed, for sure when I wake up, but also when I'm like anytime doing dishes, stressed, especially, I'll just be like, wait, what is aware of this? Like, to who does this occur? Like, what is I? What is real? What is real here, and what is imagined? And like,
Yeah.
just like make eye contact with myself. Make eye contact with myself. That's it. Moving on, back to my day.
When I discovered The Secret, I really needed that at that time in my life.
I
When I
loved The
discovered law of
Secret.
attraction, man, I needed that. I needed that deluded ass belief that I could just manifest whatever I wanted. And then the crazy thing, when the reality of what that is settles, you're like, it wasn't nothing. It's not like it doesn't have some kind of effect. But
Exactly.
you need things that meet you where you're at, and it's just funny. There's so many people get a list. I listen to a lot of Rupert Spear. I subscribe to him on YouTube. I listen to his stuff. I also listen to, I don't know
I
if you know
love
who
that.
Angelo DeLullo is. We interviewed him at one point, and I'd
Yeah.
love to
Oh,
talk to him
cool.
again.
Yeah.
But you know, and they're way different. These guys are so different from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're the way they approach things, and I often am like, why am I still so chaotic? I because there's something so
But I love what you're
compelling.
saying, that it's like it's this thing of we're all just walking each other home. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. This is what I was talking about, like following clues. It doesn't matter if you already know that, or if it's not a perfect picture that, or they're so different from the last teacher you were interested in. It's like, who cares? It's hitting the soft spot right now. Or
Hmm.
what's the word I mean to say? It's a sweet spot right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you guys heard of Leo Gura. he's fascinating. Like right now, he has a like 10-hour series on post
Deconstructing
rationalism.
rationality.
Yes, it's so good. I'm so into this. So, or I even appreciate Alex O'Connor, who's a
Yeah.
skeptic, cosmic skeptic, and he's an atheist. But he, like, recently he said something. He's like, "What if consciousness is just um, way more simple than we think? What if we think consciousness is like this complex sense of self, but actually it's like the simplest, uh, the simplest sort of substance of everything?" And it's like, even though you're a skeptic and an atheist, that was a breadcrumb for me. Like that
Yeah.
deepened my access.
Hmm.
So I'm not even picky. I'm not picky. I don't care if it's somebody who's not enlightened at all.
Hmm.
I'm just following breadcrumbs.
My life changed when I watched a show. You ever heard of the show The Last Man on Earth with Will Forte?
No.
It's a comedy show. It only ran for like I think 3 or maybe 4 seasons. And it's just a comedy show about the last guy left on Earth. And when that show crossed my path, I was in like a severely dark place in my life. And something about the themes of that show, that this guy was on his own. It was during COVID. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like during COVID and synchronistically this show came out and I started watching it and it was about a guy alone on the planet, but he was a mess. He was a mess of a human in his former life. And then throughout the course of the show, you see him realize like the importance of just having another person around you. You know what I mean? And his character changed to be less selfish in the
Wow.
value of a limited amount of people. And that was just a stupid comedy that had a profound effect on my life, changed my life, that show. You know,
Wow.
outside the realm of spirituality. It's similar things have happened. I consume a lot of spiritual stuff like YouTube stuff. I go to the gym, still listening to somebody talking, probably the only guy in the gym listening
Yeah.
to somebody slowly talk about enlightenment while I'm lifting weights,
Same.
you
Same.
know.
If any, I almost would be like, I'd be so embarrassed if anybody like took my AirPod and
Yeah,
pushed it when
yeah,
I was
yeah.
listening to
The Bluetooth picks up on the speaker in the gym and then starts
Wait a
playing
sec.
Oh
Wait a
no.
sec. People need to start connecting at the gym more. And find out that's what everybody's doing.
Hey, what are you listening to?
That's funny.
Heavy metal.
Yeah.
Let me switch this over real quick.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny.
But that's how thirsty, I am sometimes for that stuff is I'll go home, I'll come back from the gym and then I'll lie down, promptly fall asleep listening to it. Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But it can come from anywhere. Who says it can't come from a friggin' Simpsons episode? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Something shifts. Oh my God, you know?
Yeah. Well, Cory, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and spending
This was
some
fun.
time. This was awesome. Great having a great
It was a
fun
blast.
conversation. Usually to close when we close things out, we kind of let our guests have the last say. So if there's an overarching message or something that you're I think you've said a lot of it, but maybe you want to finalize it into a nice package about your podcast, your message, everything that you're trying to get out there, you can have the last word. And then maybe let our audience know where they can find you, what you got going on, and all that good stuff.
Know that enlightenment is possible for you. That's the most important thing. It actually is. I could be your example. If you feel like you're not the type of person who can do it, or you don't have the DNA for it, or it's for those reserved lucky few, you're wrong. You can do it. Enlightenment is what you are. So it's just a matter of peeling off the not you and looking at what you are closer, and with some good guidance here and there, following the breadcrumb. It doesn't have to even be long. Like this can just be a few deep dives, and you can remember what you are. So that's the most important thing, is for everybody to know that enlightenment is for them and it's possible for you. And then if you want to get more involved with anything I'm doing, yeah, my perspective is called Perspective on YouTube, or I mean, my website is corykatuna.com. But where my team is facilitating and working together and hosting workshops and classes and stuff is Massaro University. So it's Massaro, Massaro .university. We have we just have an amazing team, like an amazing team of, yeah, really, really great people. And we do workshops that we're passionate about and classes that we're passionate about, from self-realization all the way to, like, I did one on growing together, like this topic that we've talked about here, working together with my business partner. So we have like a 3-part class there. There's one happening now called Clean Up Your Life, and it's like so practical. It's like getting your like laptop, getting everything in your life that's out of order in order so that you're free. It's like from the most practical to the most esoteric that we have in like university. And then we have our mentorship coming up in January, but it's mostly full. So I bet by the time you air this, there're not going to be any spots left. But it's called, but you can find it at bentinhomassaro.com/mentorship. I think that's everything.
All amazing.
Yeah.
All amazing stuff. Check it out, everybody.
Thanks for being on the show. Great having you, Cory.
It's been so good. Really fun. Thanks, guys.